Nature is full of giants, blue whales, giant squids, that one goose that has personally declared war on your entire family. But on Proteus, evolution looked at Earth's largest animals and responded with, "That's cute." Today we examine the Leviathans of Subnautica 2, creatures so large, so strange, and so profoundly inconvenient that scientists have been forced to invent entirely new categories of concern. Some are predators, some are ecosystem engineers, and at least one appears to be a clam that has somehow become a neurotoxic economic opportunity. Let's begin. The Deepwing Brooder resembles a squid, in roughly the same way a freight train resembles a bicycle. This enormous arthropod leviathan drifts through Proteus, carrying vast reserves of fatty tissue beneath its shell, partly for feeding, partly for reproduction, and partly because nature occasionally decides to solve every problem with more butter. The brooder belongs to an ancient lineage known as the Tagmatapteria, a group that evolved so early in Protean history that they effectively wrote the instruction manual for giant arthropods. Its ancestors transformed limbs into eyes, developed a massive keel beneath the body, and apparently concluded that moderation was for weaker species. Despite its enormous size, the brooder spends much of its life filtering plankton from the water, which is the biological equivalent of owning an industrial mining excavator exclusively to spread jam on toast. Its gigantic beak, however, tells a different story. Researchers suspect it also feeds on hard-shelled prey, drifting fat deposits and anything else unfortunate enough to fit into its dietary philosophy, which appears to be, if I can bite it, it is food. But the brooder's most important role isn't feeding, it's parenting. Deepwing brooders accumulate thick layers of oil beneath their shells. When laying eggs, this oil is released alongside decoy eggs designed to distract predators. Scientists call this reproductive strategy. Everyone else calls it throwing fake babies at the problem. The surviving young hatch. The predators get distracted, and the ocean receives a shower of free calories, which, on Proteus, qualifies as community service. Even their molts contribute to the ecosystem. When a brooder sheds its exoskeleton, enormous grease-lined shells sink into the abyss, creating entire feeding events for deep-sea scavengers. Imagine a whale fall, except it's made of armor plating and cooking oil. The great jaw is a clam. This statement becomes increasingly alarming the longer you think about it. At first glance, it appears harmless, a giant shell resting peacefully on the seabed. A symbol of calm, a monument to stillness, a geological feature with opinions. Then you touch the wrong tendon, and suddenly you're inside the clam. Like earthly bivalves, the great jaw consists of two enormous shells connected by powerful adductor muscles. But unlike earthly bivalves, this one appears to have been designed by a criminally ambitious architect. The mantle lining the interior contains thousands of motion-sensitive eyes, meaning the great jaw can watch you from every direction simultaneously, which transforms an ordinary clam into a surveillance state. When prey disturbs its closing mechanism, the shell snaps shut. Anything trapped inside is then treated to a dose of domoic acid neurotoxin. Symptoms include nerve damage, memory loss, and death. In scientific terminology, this is known as a very persuasive argument for personal space. Oddly enough, hunting may not even be its primary food source. The interior hosts photosynthetic organisms that generate much of its energy, meaning the great jaw spends most of its life behaving like a plant until something annoys it, which, if we're being honest, is also how many people approach Mondays. As if all that wasn't enough, the creature accumulates lithium deposits throughout its life. These mineral nodules are periodically expelled, creating one of the strangest sentences ever written in a scientific report. The giant murder clam is a renewable mining operation. Proteus remains deeply committed to confusing economists. If curiosity killed the cat, the Collector Leviathan ate the cat, then dismantled the remains to understand how it worked. The Collector is a gigantic cephalopod predator built around one core principle. Armour exists to be removed. Its body resembles a squid, a very large squid, an extremely intelligent squid, a squid capable of tearing through titanium plating, which is generally considered poor news for anything built out of titanium plating. 4 massive hunting tentacles surround an enormous beak. Smaller arms cluster around the mouth, each equipped with dexterous claws. This is not a feeding apparatus. This is a multi-tool with anger issues. The Collector specialises in heavily armoured prey, great jaws, coral crabs, your tadpole. Anything that believes a thick shell provides security. The Collector treats these assumptions as educational opportunities. Its most fascinating feature is a gigantic broadcast organ, a biological phased array sonar system capable of producing complex pulses. Scientists suspect this structure is deeply connected to the animal's intelligence. Patterns of bioluminescence may even reflect activity within its brain, which raises an uncomfortable possibility. The giant glowing squid may be visibly thinking, and you may be watching it solve problems, including the problem of how to open your submarine. Collectors also possess an unusual W-shaped pupil, a trait also present in ancient Earth cephalopods. Its exact purpose remains unknown, which is unfortunate, because whenever evolution creates a feature scientists can't explain, it usually turns out to be important. The PDA warns that intelligent predators often appear cruel, not because they're malicious, but because curiosity and experimentation can look remarkably similar to torture when you're on the receiving end. And if there's one thing worse than a giant predator, it's a giant predator that's interested in you. Most Leviathans are animals. The Shiver feels more like a concept, a thought, a nightmare. A biological answer to a question nobody asked. Deep beneath Proteus lies an oceanic desert, thousands of meters below the surface, a place of silence, of darkness, of endless hunger, and in that emptiness swims the Shiver. The PDA describes them as one shiver, many sharks, which sounds poetic, until you realize it is entirely literal. The Shiver is not a single organism, it is a colony, a mother-wife surrounded by smaller males that ride upon her body. Together they function as a single predatory machine, a compact made entirely of teeth. The riders harvest smaller prey. The central body claims larger victims. Everything gets eaten. Everyone contributes. It's surprisingly wholesome. Provided you ignore all the eating, the PDA compares them to Earth's Point Nemo, the most isolated location in the ocean, a place so empty that spacecraft would deliberately crash there. And it suggests that in Proteus's abyss, something learned to feed on whatever fell from above, including perhaps things that arrived from space, which is a deeply concerning evolutionary pathway. Most predators chase food. The Shiver waits, patiently, silently, hungry enough to turn eternity into a hunting strategy. And if the Collector represents intelligence, the Shiver represents inevitability. You do not escape it because it is faster. You do not escape it because it is stronger. You escape it because it hasn't noticed you yet. The Leviathans of Proteus reveal something fascinating about life on this world. None of these giants exist simply to be large. Each fills a role. The Deepwing Brooder feeds entire ecosystems. The Great Jaw turns photosynthesis into murder. The Collector weaponizes curiosity. And the Shiver transforms hunger into an ecological philosophy. Together, they form the apex of Proteus' food web, living reminders that evolution is not a ladder. It's a series of increasingly questionable decisions that somehow keep working, and somewhere beneath the waves, a giant clam is waiting to poison you, a squid is trying to figure out how your vehicle opens, and an ancient abyssal colony is patiently deciding whether you're worth eating. Welcome to Proteus. Please keep your hands inside the tadpole at all times,